Howdy. This is our Halloween special. And this one is a doozy. This is another request I had come up to review. And I figured if I was going to review it, I was going to go all in. I've said this before. I'm not one to back down from a challenge. I'll watch anything once. And today, the movie I watched is Midsommar. Let's discuss. All right, buckaroos. I finally broke down and watched this movie. This is Ari Aster's sophomoric feature following the much talked about Hereditary, which I still need to see. That's one I'm on the fence about. And I'm just as nervous as I was to watch this movie as I am to watch Hereditary. But all in due time. Today, we discuss Midsommar. I have to say that this movie is disturbing. But if I'm being honest, after having seen it, it was less disturbing than I felt it might be. Here's what I mean by that. I think sometimes when it comes to certain movies, hearing about how great a movie is or how terrible a movie is by word of mouth doesn't always do it justice. I think if you're curious at all, it helps to watch the movie anyway, if you know, to get a sense of it for yourself, because the fact of the matter is everyone's experience is different. Even if you see the same movie, you may ultimately come away agreeing on opinions about the movie, but you might differ on some things. And I think in the case of this movie, I agree with what I had heard about the movie, which is that it was disturbing. However, the level of being disturbed, I think, is different for me than I had heard from others. If you don't know anything about this movie, it's about a group of young individuals led by Florence Pugh, who's amazing. She plays a character named Danny, who has suffered a tragedy. And in the wake of this tragedy, she embarks on a journey to Sweden, I believe, somewhere, with her partner and her partner's friends as they go to study the culture of this sort of cult. It seems, well, to us, is a cult. But it is a culture that's happening, and they're being studied for a thesis project for school. As we come to understand, the study is quite dangerous, and it leads to a lot of wild occurrences. Hence, you get Midsommar. Now, again, the one thing I think is the strongest element of this movie. Well, there are a few things. So one is the sense of tension that's there. You never really get to you don't really understand the magnitude of the tension until things happen. And to be quite honest, I think going in, I expected things to happen more often than they did. It feels more like a slow burn type of buildup. And I guess I shouldn't be too surprised. As an A24 project, they are really good at picking projects that are unique, a little bit off kilter, and that do something different narratively. And I think this film sort of fits the bill of something that does something different narratively. It's also highly artsy. There are a lot of shots that are just beautifully shot. Some of them are weird, like weird angle shots, upside down shots. For instance, when the group is arriving at the location where the community lives, the camera does this upside down shot of what's happening, what's ahead, and then it transitions to a right side up shot. It's really weird. It does a lot of work and setting you up for some strangeness. And it's so odd. I think you instinctually know, based on that camera movement, if you're paying attention, that strange things are going to happen. I think more so than disturbing things or violent things, strangeness is a huge piece. And I think for me, the camera moves did a lot of talking that sort of foreshadowed a lot of the strangeness before I saw any strangeness. I found myself waiting for things to happen. And this is what I mean about some of the tension. Aster does a great job in creating tension and tightening the rope until things happen. And the genius is when things do happen, there are only really a couple instances where it's pretty graphic, but sometimes it's not graphic and things are just sort of things are not suggested, but you don't get to see every sort of questionable thing happen as it happens. And I think that's one of the strengths of this movie. You get a couple areas where it is a little bit like, oh, that's kind of raw, it's kind of rough. You might have to look away at a couple moments, but aside from that, the movie is set up in such a way that you can enjoy what's on screen visually in terms of the location. It is a beautiful location, and that also adds to the sense of unease, the sense of unsettling nature that you have when you witness the characters go through their journey at this lovely location. And there is a feeling that people they can't just leave whenever they want to. So you come to learn that there is perhaps people were tricked into coming to this community. Whatever the case, it's not fun, and it's not your run-of-the-mill thriller. And I think if you're looking for something different, this movie will give that to you. However, also, if you're looking for something a little bit weird, this movie will also give it to you. There are a couple instances where it might be a little bit too weird, a little bit too, like, what? Why is it, but hey, look, everybody has their own sort of level for how much they can handle when it comes to that kind of stuff. I let you be the judge of that. I'm not going to tell you not to see it. I do think there are lots of things in this movie that are worth looking at. Namely, primarily, I think probably is Florence Pugh's performance. She gives a powerhouse performance, and it's very real. There's something about it that's super authentic before things get wild. But even then, when things get wild, it is still believable given the context of what's happening. She's amazing. Now, I confess, I'd known of her because of this movie, but obviously had never seen the movie. My first real exposure to her, and of course, Little Women, I know she was in that, and I've seen pieces of her in that, but I really got to see her in Black Widow, the Black Widow solo film. And she was amazing in that. I think she probably was one of the strongest things about that movie as well. And, she reprises that role in the Hawkeye Disney Plus series. And she's good in that. I knew the caliber. I knew what I was getting. And I think something about it actually helped. I think there was a benefit to me not having seen Midsommar before. And so now coming back to it and seeing it now, I'm not surprised, and yet I'm still surprised. There's something. She's fantastic. If you want to see a good performance that plays into the layered experience of being a human and the experience of being a human in a unique position as she finds herself in this movie, check it out because she's really good. Other things to talk about, I think that I appreciated, what I really enjoyed was the way the film allows its production design to tell story. There are several sequences in the movie where you see wall images, drawings, and things. These things that tell stories. They tell their own stories, and how the movie allows them to do that. And we know at some point some of these things are going to find their way into the main story proper. And it's just really cool to see these things quietly in the background and given certain places to shine. And the production, speaking of that, the production design is fantastic. The costume design is fantastic. The women were beautiful, and the men were beautiful too. Like the drapes, sheet things that they wore, very lovely, very nice. And I think to top it off, I while we're talking about that, I have to mention the centerpiece film. I think the centerpiece film is probably, there's a dancing sequence where the women in the community have to do a sort of ritual dance as a way to commemorate this story that's a part of the scriptures in the faith that they practice, and they have to dance till you drop, and the last woman standing becomes what's called the May Queen, and it's an amazing sequence. There's sections of it where it's intercut with other things happening, but it's really it's beautiful. It's beautifully shot. The way the camera moves, it is also in concert with the women who are dancing. Like, they're dancing and the camera is dancing too. There's a conversation happening between the women, Florence Pugh, and the cinematographer at the same time. And it's daytime and the lighting is perfect. Everything, it's just really nice. It's also well edited. The longer it goes on, you get more and more disoriented, and you get more and more sort of wound up into the spiral of confusion. And also, oddly, there's some fun involved and enjoyment and sort of fear, and all these things are sort of being wrapped up. And as the audience member, you're watching, and the feeling of, wow, that looks fun. They look like they're having fun. And you're unsettling. It's unsettling because you're worried about Danny. Is she going to get out of this? Is she stuck? Can she get away from the community? Like, can she go back home? Like, what the, and all of that is going through my mind watching that sequence. It's a beautiful sequence. It does a lot of work in maintaining tension too. So yeah, if you're wondering, this is a strange movie, but not as strange as Beau is Afraid. I think if you look at Ari Aster's work, again, I haven't seen Hereditary yet, but if I look at Beau was Afraid was a strange movie. And I think it had some narrative through lines that you could follow. I think what I followed most about the movie was Joaquin Phoenix's performance. And that helped keep me on some path of understanding of what was going on, because a lot of it was kind of hard to know whether or not what was a dream, what was reality, what was made up. And I think similarly, this movie has a weirdness to it, but it's more clearly defined and clearly executed. And I think a lot of this probably has to do with the nature of the story. The story is pretty clear. You have a group of youngsters, young college age individuals, or sort of graduate students who are going to a community overseas to study, and perhaps, have some fun in the local scene of the country, whatever it is. And along the way, they get roped up into this community, and it's not as fun as they thought. It ends up being quite dangerous. So that's pretty clear. That's a clear situation. So I think looking at this movie and Beau is Afraid, this is a clearer, and you also the added level of Florence Pugh's performance to anchor it. It seems like everyone else around her is weird. And when you go through all this stuff, you get through the movie and you're not sure where, you're still left with a sense of unease. And I think that there's something that's kind of cool about that it's not a definitive situation. The movie doesn't end and you know what's going on. You still have a sense of like, okay, it's over, but like, what now? Like, what does it mean? You don't really know any of that type of stuff. And the film doesn't give you those answers. And I think that's kind of cool. And something about that seems just the sort of thing that A24 as an entity would go for. So yeah, something to think about when you consider getting to watch this movie. But man, it was a weird one, and it is disturbing, and but it's I think there are worse things out there to be disturbed by, worse movies to be disturbed by. So I think, yeah, that's going to be it. That's going to do it for this movie. Thank you for taking the time to hang out with me and watch this review. Come on back. The reviews keep coming. In the meantime, take it easy. I hope you had a safe and enjoyable Halloween evening, even though it's in the middle of the week. Hope you kick back and watch the movie, had some nice food, and just had a relaxing situation. That's what I tried to do. But this movie messed it up a little bit. But that's okay. Hey, this is the price you pay. All right. Take it easy. I'll see you guys in the next one.